This episode of Nerdist News is sponsored by Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. The new Tenet trailer raises way more questions than it answers. It's about time. After months of waiting, putting our ears to our bookcases and staring at the spinning tops on our tables, last week Warner Bros. Finally dropped a brand new trailer for Christopher Nolan's next gigantic blockbuster movie, Tenet, and it's literally about time. While we've seen a first look at Tenet before, as well as an IMAX prologue, the mystery surrounding this project was the source of many questions for fans, and they were eagerly and perhaps foolishly awaiting this new trailer to finally give them the answers and insights they crave. But as it turns out, they'll have to wait just a little bit longer for actual answers about what Nolan and company have in store. While we may have gotten an answer or two, in true Christopher Nolan fashion, we were left with even more questions after the trailer than we had before.
Well, we'll try and keep up.
So let's break down some of these burning questions about Tenet and see if we can make sense of things, shall we? Alright, the first question doesn't even really have to do with the movie itself. We were all waiting to see where and when this trailer was actually going to finally show up, and then it was announced the trailer was going to make its world premiere in Fortnite. So the question is, why? Why would noted cinephile Christopher Nolan want to premiere the best look yet at his sci-fi opus in a virtual world where people relentlessly hurl tomatoes and Durr burgers at the screen? Anyway, all joking aside, here are the actual questions we still have about Tenet's plot. Number one, is this a movie about time travel? Well, that's actually one of the few questions answered by the trailer. It's not time travel, it's time inversion. But what exactly is time inversion? How is time being experienced or manipulated in this movie? If John David Washington's character can invert the flow of time, can he also change things that have already happened? Towards the end of the trailer, his character mentions that reversing the flow of time and us being here now means it never happened. Now, as for what that means, well, it's still a gigantic question mark. Maybe Dr. Kip Thorne can explain this one as well. And speaking of the film's lead, John David Washington, we did get a synopsis for this movie in which he is front and center, so maybe that will clear something up. Let's read it. John David Washington is the new protagonist in Christopher Nolan's original sci-fi action spectacle, Tenet. Armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, the protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time. Not time travel, inversion.
Whoa.
Okay, great, that clears everything up, but why is the protagonist's name a secret? Is his name hiding a surprise? Is it all a misdirect and he's just going to be like John Doe or Mike Everyman? Is protagonist his real name and this is actually a secret adaptation of Neil Stephenson's cyberpunk classic Snow Crash? Okay, maybe not that last one, but they are doing Snow Crash for HBO Max, but that's also another story. You know, it's fitting that this synopsis, which is supposed to explain what the movie's about, left us with even more questions than answers. The only thing we know for certain from that synopsis is that Nolan sure does love messing with the passage of time, or at least our perception of it. From Memento, to Inception, to Interstellar, and now Tenet, Nolan clearly has an abiding interest in chronology and time. I mean, hell, even a movie based on real events like Dunkirk played with our perception of time. As for the other questions we have, what's up with Kenneth Branagh's Russian national villain? Is he the real deal? Is he a red herring and maybe someone else is the true villain? Like, I don't know, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has yet to appear in these trailers? Is the real big bad a la, spoiler alert, Matt Damon in Interstellar? Does Robert Pattinson's character serve as the Christopher Nolan stand-in for the audience, explaining the vast drama of his plan to go full John Woo and blow up a plane? Nolan does like to do this in his movies. It kind of feels like Tom Hardy's character Eames in Inception telling us to dream bigger. You know, one of the biggest questions that fans have is about when they can actually see the damn thing. The title card at the end of the Tenet trailer boldly proclaims coming to theaters in a sort of middle finger to other movies that chose to debut online during this pandemic. But the big question is, coming to theaters when? While its July 17th release date has not officially been moved yet, not putting that date in the trailer itself kind of feels like a sign of a possible move to come. Honestly, it all comes down to if enough theaters worldwide have opened up again by July, and a recent report from Deadline claims that Warner Bros. Needs 80% of theaters to reopen in order for Tenet to make the July 17th release date. Now, there are a lot of hopes that Tenet hitting its original release date would signal some sort of return to normalcy for the theater-going public, but honestly, if it has to move, it has to move. It's still a Christopher Nolan movie, and we want to see it in 70mm IMAX with our body weight and snacks when it's actually safe to do so. Even Nolan's weaker blockbusters are still spectacles that demand to be seen on the biggest screen possible. Fans will wait if they need to, and in the meantime, we'll wait for more information. But tell me, what do you folks think? What is time inversion exactly? What's the protagonist's real name? And is it worth trying to figure out what Tenet's about, or should we just go in blind?
Well, I've seen too much.
Let's discuss. Thanks again to Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath for sponsoring today's episode. If you're like us, you've often wondered who would win in a face-off between RoboCop and the Terminator. Well, with the Aftermath expansion, you can finally settle that debate. Everyone's favorite cybernetic police officer, RoboCop, has finally joined the Mortal Kombat ranks, alongside the Joker, Spawn, and the T-800. Download the Aftermath expansion right now for MK11, and if you're new to combat, get the Aftermath Collection, available on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, Google Stadia, or the Nintendo Switch, rated M for mature.